Ladies, gentlemen, and everyone in between, welcome to a very special edition of This is a Revolution. Today, Dave and I are going to get together to discuss 10 international based women's wrestlers that we would love to see come into Revpro. We've already seen the expansion of the women's division over the second half of last year. We've seen people like Sareee Deeb coming into Revpro as well, and it really feels like this year could be the year, as Dave predicted on one of our recent podcasts, that we see a lot of foreign-based talent coming in to really help solidify and lift the women's division to new heights in Revpro. So Dave and I are going to talk through 5 wrestlers each that we think could come into Revpro and add some real value and just have some great matches. Dave, who's first on your list?
I'm going to start off immediately with the woman you just mentioned, mate. Sareee Deeb. Her coming into Revpro at the end of last year to wrestle Kanji was both in our top 10 matches of the second half of last year. It made it into your top 10 matches of the entire year and was an honourable mention for me. But I want more than just seeing her once. Something that Andy Quildan has made like no secret of is he likes to book international stars that he can book regularly and that he can bring back again and again, and they can become part of Revpro canon. We've seen Tomohiro Ishii, we've come back time and time again. We've seen it with all manner of people over time, whether it was the period of time where we saw a lot of Donovan Dijak before he went to WWE, and then again since, or whether it is the British talent that have left the company who still come back each year, like your Gabe Kids and like your Zack Sabre Juniors. I think it's time now that we have 1 or 2 women who can be pulled back and brought into Revpro to give the amazing British women the opportunity to level up to them. And I don't think anybody can offer that like Sareee Deeb can. We know that she's willing. We know that she really enjoyed her time in Revpro. She was very vocal about that. She talked about wanting to get more independent bookings as well. For me, this is one that works perfectly because she gets the additional bookings that she wants. We get stellar matches, and the women in the British wrestling scene get the opportunity to wrestle one of the very best in the world.
Love that. Happily see Sareee Deeb back. For me, my number one that I've got on my list is someone who has featured a lot in AEW and has started to branch out a bit, and that is Tiar Melo. I think the great thing about Ty is ever since her NXT days, you could really see the potential she had. She's a legit judoka black belt. She has this really great, strong striking style. Her in-ring is very different to others that you see, and she recently made her comeback at the event in Stardom as a tag team match, tagging with Athena, and she got in there and she was throwing like proper judo throws around Matt, like some real grappling going on, and she looked like she hadn't missed a beat. She's been out of the ring nearly 2 years now, which is incredible because I think she's only just turned 30 as well. So she obviously took some time off to go and start a family, and she's making a really high profile comeback in potentially the biggest women's promotion in the world over the Wrestle Kingdom weekend. So a really prominent spot. I think she'd be really primed for coming over to Revpro because it benefits everyone. She's an international name that people know. So people are going to buy tickets to come and just see her because she is a name. She's had some great matches in AEW, whether it's street fights, whether it's like sports entertainment kind of fights, whether it's more technical matches as well. She's really well rounded, but it would really work well in her favor as well because while I think she could come in, draw crowds in, and get some good matches, she has a lot to offer. The Revpro roster has a lot to offer by putting her in somewhere like an Alex Windsor, or Danny Luna, someone who can help her as well experience different styles around the world. She is a product of the WWE Performance Center, so actually being able to have a bit more experience as well, she can lean on with some of the more entertainment style things for the guys and girls there as well. So I think she'd be a great pick.
Danny Luna versus Tiar Melo sounds delightful. A real kind of styles clash.
Absolutely.
it's led me to go to my next choice. Then I'm going to go with Trish Adora. I have been a huge fan of Trish Adora ever since I first started seeing her in Ring of Honor in the Women of Honor division. I think this would have been either just before or in the early days of the pandemic. And then was delighted to see her get her opportunities with AEW and the infantry. And I feel like she is one of the most underrated women's wrestlers in the world. Um, what I would really like to see is we talk about styles making fights and a clash of styles being something that's really, really interesting to see in professional wrestling. And when you've got these kind of international dream matches, and what I would really like to see is powerhouse Trish Adora coming in and wrestling someone like a technical Kanji or a technical Millie McKenzie. Alternatively, who doesn't love seeing an absolute hoss fight? So Trish Adora versus Danny Luna, Trish Adora versus Rio. There's so many great matches there. Again, someone who would really benefit, I think, from the experience in terms of where she is in her career and, working independent companies up and down America, coming over to the UK. It feels like a marriage of convenience that would work really well for everybody, which is kind of the theme for our video, I feel. It would be so easy to sit here and just name the 10 most famous women in the world, get a thumbnail up for that, and try and pop some numbers with it. But what we're trying to really look at is people for whom Revpro is a destination and who would really benefit themselves from it as well. And I think Trish Adora absolutely ticks those boxes.
So my next pick is none other than Megan Bain. And guys, sorry if you can see that my voice does not match the video. As you can imagine, this is a voiceover because I hit mute on the actual recording time. So I'm sure that all of you who watch this are very familiar with Megan Bain. But for those who are uninitiated, Megan is a woman on the independent scene like no other. She is out there regularly wrestling women and men in GCW. She has been in AEW on Dark and Dark Elevation. She is a very physically domineering woman. She has incredible stature and presence. She is a build of 6'5", I believe, and she is every single inch of that presence. If you want to consider what it's like, imagine the closest I could imagine to today's standards, or sorry, the standards of yesterday even, would be China. Just a very big, physically dominating woman, but very strong. She has this look of a Greek goddess who is just here to have all kinds of war and fight everyone. Very much a powerhouse wrestler as well. She could provide a real difference to Revpro because you've got someone who could come in as a heel or a babyface, someone who could really get the people behind them, someone who could really stand as an opposition to people, whether it's up against Kanji, the heart and soul of the Revpro women's division, going up against someone as physically dominating as Megan Bain, the Cutthroat Collective. They will meet their match with someone like Megan Bain. Riho will have absolutely great fighting barn burners, like real brawls there as well. Megan Bain is someone that would make a fantastic addition to the Revpro roster in 2025.
I'm going to go for my third pick. I'm going to go for someone that we're very familiar with in Revpro. But again, I'm a firm believer in the benefits of having that long lasting relationship with talents. And it's about time we welcomed Hyan back into RevPro. She has made she's one of the most frequent kind of visitors to RevPro from the United States of male or female wrestlers, and she is part of the RevPro family. And it's been ever since, it's been all the way back to the 11th anniversary, so over a year or coming up for a year and a half since we saw her. And it is absolutely high tide that she returns. Her husband is returning in 2025. So it feels like one which is very realistic and plausible that we might get to see both of them in Revpro at the same time in 2025. But we are long overdue a serious title challenge contention from Hyan. She has had matches before for the Undisputed Women's Championship. She has come close before. But Hyan versus Mercedes Moné, that sounds like an absolute money match I would love to see.
Now, guys, you're back with me in the editing booth here as I am about to tell you my next pick. Next pick being Lena Cross. So, for those of you who are unaware of Lena, Lena works out of Australia and is somewhat of a newcomer to the wrestling scene compared to a lot of the ladies on this list, having broken out further afield in 2023, where she debuted in Japan for Sendai Girls, and she's also had some UK and US tours in there as well. So she's had a pretty big year in 2024, and coming into 2025, I expect to see her name on more and more ones to watch lists. Again, another one who is physically dominant. She's tall and strong. Reminds me very much like a Jamie Hayter in that she has got rough brawler meets real technical style wrestling. Now, this is a wrestler that I expect to see improving a lot if she comes into Revpro. Has a real great style and could go up against some really great technical wrestlers in Revpro. And one of the matches that I would like to see is Millie McKenzie. I think they've got a style that could work really, really well together, and you can have a potential match of the year contender. Now, additionally, as well, I would love to actually see alongside Lena would be Megan Bain to be booked as a tag team in Revpro. They've both got a very tall, strong, impressively athletic kind of look and feel about them, and I think that could add some real variety in the division, especially after when you're looking at people who are starting to tag up and team up a little bit more. I think that could just add an extra layer in there. Again, hear me out. How about down the line, they beat Connor Mills and Jay Joshua for the tag team titles?
I'm gonna bend the rules ever so slightly with my next pick, and I'm gonna go for a tag team who I would like to see brought in, hopefully, ideally, for a series of matches. If we could get them in on like a 2 week visit, where maybe they get 3 shows in across those 2 weeks, like a Stevenage and a Sheffield, followed by a 229, where we could get to see them as a tag team, but also get a singles match out of each of them as well. That would be wonderful. It is a team that has represented Revpro once before in the Hex, Marty Bell and Alison Kay. They worked in the first half of 2022, a couple of shows in Revpro. I got to see them in St. Neots, where they worked Laura Di Matteo and I believe it was Kanji. It might have been Alex Windsor. And it was just a taste of what they could bring. They are two highly experienced, two of the most experienced women's wrestlers in independent wrestling, having worked for TNA, having worked for Ring of Honor, for NWA. They bring so much to the table in their ability to work as a team, but their styles independently of one another. Alison Kay is, like you've been talking about, that powerhouse all-round wrestler. Marty Bell can mix it up on the mat, but she's got all that smack talk and she's got all of that entertainment side of it to draw a crowd into everything that she does. She can go with the best in there in terms of strike for strike, but there's real interesting dynamics. And when we talk about how Revpro in the last 6 months has gone from having a women's championship that gets set up for feuds and rivalries and matches into more of a division, and we've seen more multi-woman matches, more tag matches booked, it feels the perfect time for them to come back. Getting to see them come in and work the babyface side against the Cutthroat Collective would be awesome. But alternatively, there are so many women now that you could easily have them come in and bully a team of like Aluna and Lucia Lee, or a team of Chantal Jordan and Kanji, something like that. There's really, really good opportunities to see both of them back. Two names which a lot of people will be familiar with, and a lot of people would enjoy getting to see once again.
Nice. Yeah, I think that would be a really great addition. For me, there is someone that I think would just be a wonderful, really wonderful addition to this Revpro women's roster, and that is Sareee. Sareee is a name that if you follow Joshi Wrestling, you'll be very aware of. And even if you don't have your eye particularly on it all that much, you'll still be aware of. Out in Marigold, the woman has been having matches that are highly touted by everyone I know that follows that scene closely as just these next level matches, a level of consistency that few in the wrestling world seem to be achieving. She was highly touted when she was signed to NXT, and then it became NXT 2.0, and it was very character based. Didn't quite work out for her there, but it seems that whatever she's doing out in Japan, she's hitting gold with every single time. Often described as the best women's wrestler in the world. I've seen the discussions being between Sareee and our current Revpro Women's Champion Mercedes Moné. So I think bring her in, let's have some great matches, and let's get a real focus on this women's division.
Hey, that sounds like a global war, doesn't it?
It really does, my friend.
So my fifth and final pick, mate, is gonna anyone that knows me, anyone that listens to our content, anyone that reads the stuff that I write at davemark.com isn't gonna surprise anybody. A drum roll, please. Charlie Evans, the Medusa Complex. Make it happen, please. It is absolutely there. Like, everything is set up for Millie McKenzie and Charlie Evans versus two members of the Cutthroat Collective, or Charlie Evans and Millie McKenzie and friends versus all five members of the Cutthroat Collective. We sung the praises of the 12th anniversary show and the match between Cutthroat Collective against Rio, Giselle Shaw, Nightshade, Kanji, and Debbie Keitel. No one would complain whatsoever if 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 months later we are repeating that with another 5-on-5. Mm-hmm. It can be a very different match with five very different people. But if you've got Charlie Evans and Millie McKenzie in there, you know it's going to be an absolute banger. And do you know what? If the stars don't align for me, bring her back anyway, because as a singles wrestler, she is absolutely mint. My first ever Revpro show, I got to see Charlie Evans versus Alex Windsor, and that was my first ever women's wrestling match that I got to see under the Revpro banner, and was just immediately like, they take this shit seriously, and I'm so up for it. Up until that point, I'd never seen a women's match last longer than 5 minutes at a professional wrestling show. That's kind of, the standard we're talking about. And that is what Charlie Evans represents. She represents taking all the stereotypes about women's wrestling and just smashing them to pieces. And that is what we need to do in 2025.
Nice. Yep, I like that. I think she'll be here for high stakes. So my final pick then, Dave, is, drum roll please, again, another one that if you know our stars, what we like in wrestling, you will not be surprised about, Deonna Purrazzo. The woman, when we talk about technical wrestling, few have been on the journey that Deonna Purrazzo has been on. She is someone that for a long time was criminally overlooked, and she was just constantly, whether it was TNA, leaving NXT, wherever she got the opportunity, she was making a name and setting standard for women's wrestling in the technical style, especially. Since being in AEW, she's another person that's grown in character. She knows how to command a crowd, but the level of work she can do, there are a lot of similarities between someone like her and a Serena Deeb. Bring her in for that style of match. Bring her in against Kanji. Bring her in against a Sapphire Reed, a Lucia Lee, whatever way you want to do it, whether you want her to come in and be that dismissive heel, whether you want her to be the baby face that matches up, whether you want her to be the bullying teacher, like you've got the opponents there to do it. I think she'd be a really, really great addition to the roster. She's a name that you could really make an event around as well. a high stakes or something along those lines, you could bring her in and go, hey, this is the big name that we've got here. I think Deonna Purrazzo would be a wonderful addition to Revpro.
It's been a long, long 8 years since she was last here, competing in the first ever tournament to crown the British Women's Champion. And there's story there already. You know, Nina Samuels was in that tournament. She's still here. You know, there's Millie McKenzie and Charlie Evans were in that tournament. If we're talking about people that other people would like to see, there's loads to play on. And obviously, we've got Zoe Lucas back fighting fit in a Revpro ring this year as well. And Deonna and Zoe are obviously incredibly close in the ring, out of the ring, and through their shared history. So much stuff there, and I'm sure we could easily go on with another 10. But if you feel like we've missed anybody who glaringly obvious, reach out, put it in the comments, and keep the conversation about Revolution Pro Wrestling rolling.
Absolutely. Thank you all for listening. Take care, and we'll see you next time.